All right, so Shalom, Shalom. First of all, I'm going to start by saying Barakatham, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the whole elect, starting with the 144,000. Shalom. All right, so, earlier I watched El Apostle Gabar lesson, right? It was titled, How Can This Be Possible? Right, this is proof they are not the fulfillment of Isaiah, right? Let it load in a little bit more. They're not the fulfillment of Isaiah, right? It says they're not Isaiah. This is proof they're not the fulfillment of Isaiah chapter 2, right? And that's going into all the laws and commandments will be instituted into the whole world. Everybody would know it, right? That 1948 where they put those fakes in our land, and try to make it seem like they the true Jews, which they're not, right? And Apostle Romla, he was kind of going into that as well. He also was going into, I ain't really get into deep. I ain't really finished the whole lesson with Apostle Romla. I was good, but then I started over. But Lord willing, right? The point is, just watching the elders lesson, just hearing like the false narratives and the false, the lies that are put out, amongst the Israelites, the true knowledge, and that's why starting off. Let's see. We go to the book of Jude, chapter 1, and verse 3, right? It says, Beloved, when I gave diligence to write unto you of the common salvation, right, it was needful for me to write unto you and exhort you that you should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. And the saints are who? Psalms 148, which are the Israelites, right? And, it's for us to contend in this faith, fight for this faith, stand up for this faith, stand up for this truth. Slack it. But it's for us to contend for this faith, and fight for this truth. And, as I watched those lessons, the Spirit had been kind of hit me, because to go into it, when I was watching the elders lesson, just to, gain more knowledge or whatnot, and understanding, through the Spirit, how about Shem Shah, before I went into the lesson. And the Spirit just hit me like, just go ahead and go into it, because the lesson, how I want to go, what I want to go into is, through the Spirit, how about Shem Shah, is that, that's why those are elect men, those prophets, that's why those sincere men, how about Shem Shah, they are here right now today, right? Because they're going to establish, right? Those are the ones, that are, that reincarnation that it's like, what's the word I'm looking for? Let me go to resurrection, not reincarnation, resurrection. But the prophets and all are reincarnated, right? Matter of fact, it's the precept is to back it up, but that's one of the word I was looking for. The precept real fast just off what I said, because the prophets are reincarnated here back in today, reincarnated, regenerated back here today, right? 1 Corinthians 14:32, right, says, and the spirit of the prophets are subject to the prophets, right? So the prophets are still here today, prophesying and doing the work. But the word I was looking for was resurrection, because that's that first resurrection, right? And I'll go back to Revelation 20 real fast. Revelation 20, and let's see, verse 5, right? It says, but the rest of the dead live not again until the 1,000 years were finished, right? It says, this is the first resurrection, because that first resurrection is who, right? It says, blessed and holy is he that is part in the first resurrection. On such the second death had no power. That second death is what? The nukes, the bombs, the destruction of this place. And it's 2/3 going to be destroyed in this place, right along with these other nations, right? And the ones that survive, we're going to bring them to captivity. But that first resurrection is those elect who are going to be beaten up to the chariot, right? And we're going to be, I was watching the older lesson Elder Apostle Rumlight did, and he was talking about how, because we're those ones that, that the Spirit gave us life, right? Ezekiel 37, right? And we prophesy the bones coming together. It's starting with the elect. The gathered of nations is starting with the elect, man. Those are the ones who are being brought to life. John 6:63 says, right? John 6 and verse 63 says, it says, it is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words I speak unto you, they are spirit, they are life, right? So those are the ones who are resurrected, being brought back to life. Because if you're not in the truth, you're amongst the congregation of the dead. You're a zombie, right? So those are the ones who are being brought back to life. That's why it refers to the resurrection, right? But those are the ones who's going to establish the standard in the way, and they're doing it now. Right, those are the ones who standing for the truth. Right, with some bullshit pop up. That's why you see, also you always see Elder Apostle Tahar and on down. That's why you always see them correcting, and rebuking these other camps when they go off. Right, because they're establishing they're establishing that righteous, that standard that's going to be in the kingdom. But when we get in the kingdom, everybody's going to follow it. Right, Isaiah chapter 2. That's what Elder Apostle Gabar was going to. Isaiah, everybody's going to follow the laws, commandments, Yahweh Shem Shah. And all of Israel, they're going to be written in our hearts and minds. Hebrews chapter 8, Jeremiah chapter 31, right? It's going to be written now. It's going to be written in our hearts and minds. So we have to go teach our neighbor. But the other nations, they're going to be, they're going to be, they're going to have to learn it. They're going to teach them. They're going to teach them. Matter of fact, I go to the precept. Yeah, the Apostle Gabar is going into Isaiah 2, right? And I just get straight to the point. Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 3, real fast. It says, and many people shall go and say, come and let us go to the mount of the Lord Yahweh. That's that government, that election, right? You got, you got Yahushua, King David, then you have the elect, that governing body, right? And we spoke on this a little bit that counts today too. That's why it was kind of on my spirit, right? It said, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord Yahweh and to the house of the power of Jacob. He will teach us of his ways. He will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord Yahweh from Jerusalem. Because Jerusalem is going to be that capital city in the kingdom, right? So once the destruction comes upon this place, America going to be destroyed, done away with. Then Israel going to be destroyed. We're going to build it back up to the kingdom of Yahweh Shem Shah, right? Jerusalem is going to be that capital city in there. And that's where, all the laws, communities going to be instituted across the whole earth. Everybody's going to know. Everybody's going to follow the laws, commandments. Right? When Elder Apostle Rumlock, he's breaking down Revelation chapter 20, that video he did, he was talking about how, that 1,000 years that we in now is, it talks about, right, in Revelation chapter 20, that 1,000 years, you got the first 1,000 years when Esau fell to the Renaissance. Then you got the second 1,000 years to where, Esau came back to the Renaissance, but they're going to be destroyed in the kingdom of Yahweh Shah. The kingdom of Yahweh Shah going to come, right? And everybody else going to enter to the, they're going to be the ones who overcome that if you got to have the elect come back to the kingdom through the elect seed. And you're going to have some Esau, you have other nations that survive, right, the destruction, right? Because how you think we're going to have slaves? Everybody not going to die. We're going to have slaves, but we're going to be strict because that governing body are going to be that, those elections, that first resurrection, they're going to be the ones who establish that dominion, right? Matter of fact, they're going to be the ones who establish that dominion, that dominance. They're going to establish the law, right? Which they're doing today, as you see. Right, they're established. They standing firm. They contending in that faith, right? Because they don't, and that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do in the kingdom. But that's why we rehearse righteous acts now. Judges 5 and 11. We rehearsing those righteous acts now. I got a precept real fast. I just passed it. Yeah, Micah 4 in verse 8. It says, "And thou, O tower of the flock," right? Because they're the top, the tower of the flock. They're the top, right? The head, that governing body, right? The elect, right? So the stronghold of daughter Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion, right? The first dominion, you're going to have the first dominion. They're going to set the standard. They're going to set the model of how things supposed to be. It says the kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem, right? So you're going to be the elect. Those assistant men of Yahweh Shem Shah, that governing body, are going to be the ones who establish. Just how you have the government here today who establish the laws and whatnot. That's going to be that governing body in the kingdom. But the point is, they be in spirit because they're here today doing that same thing. And I'm bringing a precept out. I brought it in account, right? Philippians 3 and 17, right? It says, "Brethren, be false together of me, mark them which walk so as ye have us for an example," right? An example, just an example, right? But because why, right? Those are the ones who are doing the will, doing the works, who are established in the law, and we're not forcing the law, right? Because we're not judged by the law, but we strive for the law the best of our abilities. You're not made perfect through the law. We understand that, right? But that don't mean we out here just going off doing whatever, right? It don't mean we just go out here and be bugged out, calling on calling on, bullshit names or whatnot. Instead of calling on names of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, right? We were rehearsing that righteous act. We were establishing that model. Now that's why you have those men, for example, who walk in that path of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, do that will. Establishing the standard that Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah set for us now. Those men who rehearse that righteous act, who do those things, right? They're here today establishing that dominion, right? And that's why these small hats and these elites, they hate the men, they hate the sincere men of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, because they're establishing that right. It's a wicked place. So that righteousness is exposing all of it, right? It says, for many walk of whom I have told you often, and I tell you even in weeping, that they are the enemies of the cross of Hamashiach, whose end is destruction, whose power is their belly, is their pride, whose glory is in their shame, who mind earthly things, right? But it says, for our conversation, that word conversation goes to citizenship, right? For our conversation is in heaven, from whence also we look for the Savior, the Lord Yahweh Shah Hamashiach, right? That's not an excuse right now. I'm gonna cut this on. Right? But it says, who shall change our vile body that it may be fashioned like unto his glorious body, because we're going to be made immortal. We're going to be in spiritual bodies. That first rest, we're going to be, we're going to be in spiritual bodies in the kingdom, according to the working whereby he is able even to subdue all things to himself, right? But the point is, those men you got to use them for an example, right? Because we're ambassadors for this truth, right? It's another thing we spoke on in the campus today, right? 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 20, right? I read in the NLT where it says, now then we are ambassadors for Hamashiach Yahushua, as though Yahweh did beseech you by us. We pray you in Hamashiach's stead, you be reconciled unto Yahweh. But we're ambassadors for this truth, right? So how we carry ourselves, how we move, right? We moving in the way of Yahweh Shah said for us to move, and that's what they're doing, setting that standard now. They know that you can't come into GMS saying no bullshit. They know, right? You know you can't come to the, it's lucky for notifications. Shalaki. Let me see. 2 Corinthians 5. Right? It says right here, right? It says, I'm going to turn this off because I might end up calling it right. It says, so we are Hamashiach's ambassadors. Yahweh is making his appeal through us, right? So we got to set that standard, right? You got to set that, and that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing now. Cause we the men of Yahweh Shah. We the sons of Yahweh Shah. When that word says children in the Bible in Hebrews, that's the son. We're the sons of power, right? So therefore we carry ourselves as such. And you have the sincere men, you have the prophets, you have the elders who doing that now, setting that standard. Making the appeal of Yahweh Shah, letting it show through. That's why I said let your light shine forth. Right? By the fact we can grab that. The words. I'm gonna search the definition of ambassador real fast. Let's see. Search where. Oh no. It says an ambassador is an official representative, right? Most commonly a high-ranking diplomatic officer who represents their home country or in a foreign land or an internal organization. And that's what we are to this truth. We ambassadors. We represent this truth. So us representing this truth, we gotta let our light shine forth. This is Matthew 5 and 16. It says, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in him, right? Because those ones who receive that light, are going to be those elect, the ones who get out of that darkness, because you have those men setting that standard. You have those men, how your men Shah setting that standard, right? Who setting that curriculum through the Spirit. It's all through the Spirit, probably Yahweh Shah, right? Who set that curriculum, set that standard that Yahweh Shah set for us, way for us to live. We're not supposed to live like these heathens. We're not supposed to move like these people. The wisdom of this world is foolish, right? We don't want to know what they know, right? We want to know what Yahweh Shah has set for us, right? And he have men, the mouthpiece of the Lord right now is his prophets. So he put the Spirit on these men to prophesy and teach these things, right? And tell us how to do these things. This was back then. But Jake never listened. But now that 144,000 listen, and they setting that standard of how the people supposed to be. No, when our nation failed, as a people, we talked about this yesterday at camp as well too, right? It's all the spirit, right? But when our nation fails as a people, right? In Lamentations 2, it talks about how, you know, and we never brought it out, right? Lamentations 2, verse 15, it says, all that pass by clap their hands at thee. They hiss and wag their head at the daughter of Jerusalem, saying, is this the city that men call the perfection of beauty? And we're going to get back to that, right? So they basically hating on Israel. They jealous. They hating, right? They were happy we failed. But you have those men establishing that perfection of beauty now. And that's why we're made, what the scripture said, we made perfect through our suffering. They're enduring the suffering. They're enduring the pain, doing the hardship. They're 144,000, right? Who are being that example, who walking that path that Yahweh Shah set for us, right? Yeah, Yahweh Shah overcame. Yeah, the prophets overcame, right? By keeping that faith, right? Keeping that faith to the end, you know, and Yahweh Shah is going to bring it through us. But they're being made perfect through that suffering, right? And doing those things, and they setting that standard, that perfection of beauty, which we're going to get back to. That's why they're going to be the first resurrection. That's why they're going to, you know, they're going to receive the first dominion, because they're the ones who are working on it now. It's mercy period. We're fixing ourselves now through the spirit of Yahweh. You got Jake out here running around thinking they already got it. They already made. No, man. We're filthy, right? That's why we're going to be changed to spiritual bodies and to perfect bodies. We're not going to be no more sin. There's going to be no more death, because sin brings death. So we're not going to be no more decay, because there ain't going to be no more sin. But the whole point in that, you know, is we have those men, we have Yahweh outside, you know, they're setting that dominion now, setting that standard now, right? We're not waiting. Right, we ain't tarrying. We doing it now, right? Rehearsing that righteous act, right? You know, and Lord willing, that's what I want to go into. That's what I wanted to go into. Let's see. Well, got a quick closing pre. I had one in my mind. I really wanted to touch Philippians again, real fast, chapter 2. Just quick precept that let their mind be in you. You know, Philippians 2. And 8, real fast, Slocky, not 8, verse 5, so let this mind be in you, right? Which was also in Mashiach Yahweh Shah, right? And what was the what Yahweh Shah, let me see, what was the mindset of Yahweh Shah? What was the mindset of Yahweh Shah? What I meant to say. Let's see, I want to say that's John 5:30. Right? It says, Yahweh, what Yahweh Shah say? Right? It says, he said, right? He said, I can of my own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not my own will, but the will of the Father. Right? The will of the fathers have sent me, and that's what we doing. Right? That's what we doing, right? Doing the will of Yahweh Shah, setting that standard, showing them that, hey, we're not of this world, we don't care nothing about this world, right? We said we preparing for the kingdom. Matter of fact, got a quick precept. We preparing for the kingdom, man. We ain't preparing ourselves for nothing of this world. We preparing ourselves for the kingdom, for the things that Yahweh Shah set for us. Right? It's Matthew 6, verse 33. It says, but seek ye first the kingdom of Yahweh and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you, man. Right? So that's what we waiting on, right? Real fast. Matter of fact, I'm thinking of a precept. It just hit me in the spirit. How about you? Thinking of a precept. Here it is right here. Whole time, right? So you have Romans chapter 11, right? And I'm going to read verse 7, but I'm going to just go through, like verses on down, right? Because Paul using the example of Elias, crying to Yahweh Shah, saying, like, hey, they trying to kill me. They don't want to hear me. They trying to kill me, right? They trying to do all these things against me, right? Because this is of no, this ain't nothing that's coming, right? So we look crazy, we look stupid. People gonna hate us, people gonna persecute us, but we know that's what come with this truth, But what Paul tell them though, he said, what then? Israel have not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it, and the rest were blind. And the election, the ones who set that standard, they're going to receive that first dominion, man. Right? They're going to receive that first dominion, because they're the ones who, what? Did the works behind Bashan. And Isaiah chapter 1 talks about, if it weren't for the elect, our nation would be destroyed. But you have the elect who doing that will, who doing those works, who are establishing that who are establishing the way of Yahweh Shai. Now, we're not waiting. We let them know that's not of Yahweh Shai, that it's not of us. Right? So, Lord willing, right? That being said, right, I want to get all lessons edifying and exalting. Right, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the hopeful elect, starting with the 144,000. Shalom.